everyone's like, oh, like your show's a year away, like you're all good. I'm like, this is the time where it's the most important. The dieting is easy in comparison to now. If I don't work hard now, if I don't tick these boxes now, I'm going to be no different in a year's time. The days that I feel uncomfortable or your body fat gets to me, I just have to remind myself, like, if I want to be competitive on that pro stage, if I want to give it my all, this is the time where I need to sit in that discomfort and I just need to embrace it and focus on all the positives that come from that build phase.
Welcome back to the Comp Closet podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarah Moore, and today we are chatting to a beautiful FMG Pro. She's an online transformation coach and an accredited sports nutritionist. Imogen Harris, welcome.
Hello, how are we? Don't mind the dog as well. Jax is going to bark probably the entire time that we're on this podcast. But how are
He
you?
wants to be involved.
Honestly, dash hounds. I love them, but he's so temperamental. But anyway.
I'm good. Could you start by telling us a bit about yourself and what made you get into fitness and nutrition?
So, I realistically got into my own health and fitness journey be about 6, nearly 7 years ago now. I was a bloody uneducated person that was just, I was quite overweight in a toxic relationship. And then that ended. So I decided that I needed to get my life in order, and basically just started to teach myself about MyFitnessPal and about eating well. I signed up with an 8-week challenge, and I look back now and it was, even though it got me to where I am today, it was very under eating, lots of cardio, all the things that we shouldn't be doing now. And yeah, I literally just delved straight into it, kind of trial and error with nutrition and MyFitnessPal. And then from there, it just kind of grew, and I got just obsessed with learning more about myself and my body and seeing it transform and seeing obviously the weight come off and all that kind of thing. It just became really addictive. So then COVID came along, and then had a lot of time on my hands. So I decided to just jump straight into doing all my certs and everything like that as well. I was still in the beauty industry when that was starting. So I was comp prepping, I was working 40 plus hours a week. I was doing all of my credits and my certs and trying to juggle a long distance relationship. It was all at once kind of thing. And then, yeah, just kind of automatically delve into a kind of comp prep, I think, when you get addicted to the results. And then, yeah, got my coach and went from there.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds like you were definitely juggling a lot. So what initially inspired you to pursue bodybuilding? Like, was there a moment that you were like, okay, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, when I got into training and nutrition and I got Rob as obviously my first coach, proper coach, I always just found myself looking at Instagram, like looking at the bikinis, like not even the competitors, but I was like, these bikinis look amazing, or like looking at the routines. And I was like, I come from obviously a dancing background when I was little as well. So just looking at it, I was like, I just love the look of like the glitz and the glam and all that kind of thing as well. And I know obviously like even Rob would always say like, you'd always ask what's next or how much can I push myself that little bit more. So I think the natural thing for me, I was like, how far can I take this? And then we spoke about it, and yeah, we kind of just decided to jump into a comp prep from there, to be honest.
Yeah, incredible. And how did you transition from like a complete beginner in bodybuilding to an FMG Pro? Tell me a bit about that journey and what helped you.
Honestly, I have a lot to thank for Rob in that regard. When I reached out to him, when I was looking at competing or like I wanted to take that next step, he got on a phone call straight away with me. He answered all the questions within like 2 minutes about what competing entails and what is required of an athlete to do well in the sport as well. So I wasn't going into it blindsided. I think that was super important. So you know having a coach there that gets it and gets exactly what the competing world is, that made a massive difference obviously to wanting to start competing. And then once I did that first prep, it got cancelled obviously because of COVID, and that just kind of lit the fire. So I was just like waiting for that next show to be announced, and then as soon as they announced it, I was like, yep, let's go. And for me, I just love routine and I love striving for like just pushing myself that little bit further each time. So I think the more I became educated and the more I could see myself getting that step closer, just the harder I wanted to push. So yeah, it just became a ripple effect from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you've always kind of had that drive and that strive to grow and get better. But did you ever have any self-doubt at the start of your journey? Like, I could never look like those pros or anything like that?
100%. I remember, especially the first prep that led into the first show, so the one that actually went ahead. I remember like 2 weeks out, I was calling Rob crying, going, I'm not lean enough. I'm not lean enough. Like, I'm not conditioned enough. I look back now and I'm like, I had ab veins coming down my stomach. I was like 48 kilos on stage. I was tiny. But at that moment, I was like, no, I've got to do more. Like, I've got to be leaner. I've got to be doing this. And I think comparison being the thief of joy. I was just looking at everyone else and, constantly comparing myself to everyone's. Like, step 10 was my step 1. And I was looking where they were years down their track. And I was like, I need to be there right now. And it obviously wasn't realistic being my first show. So my next prep after that, it was very much stay in my own lane, look at myself. I can only do as good as my last show or do better than that. So focusing on what I could achieve from myself and not other people made the world of a difference for my last prep as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to someone who's listening to this and are struggling with that same kind of self-doubt before their first show?
Yeah, I think as much as I love social media, we can all be guilty of kind of going through phases of just looking at everyone else and looking at what everyone else is doing. And it's like, if this is your first show, of your second show, you might be looking at someone that's done their 8th or their 9th show and are still maybe not where they want to be as well. So just remember that, compare your step 1 to your step 1, and don't compare to someone else's step 10, 11, or 12, because you're not in the same journey and you're at different parts of that journey as well. So it's just reminding yourself that you can only do the best that you can and focus on the progression that you're making, not what everyone else is doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to comparison as well, like it's so important to note that most people only share their absolute best angles or their best parts of their posing or their best like lighting in photos. So when you see them in real life, they often don't look as good as they do on Instagram.
100%.
So there's
Yeah.
no point in comparing anyways. But yeah, it's two different things. Like
Yeah. We only share what we want to share, and a lot of the time, like, there will be the ones that seem the most confident as well, they're still going through the same self-doubt that everyone else is. They're just not posting about it. So just use the community that is obviously bodybuilding and FMG as well to reach out to people, have those conversations. Like, all of like my closest friends now are through the industry and through FMG. So anytime I have my own self-doubt in my build phase or in prep or whatever, I just talk and lean on those people as well. And most of the time they can resonate and relate to that as well.
yeah, 100%. The community is so important. And what are some of the biggest challenges that you've encountered along your bodybuilding journey?
I think for me, mostly, so I got diagnosed with Crohn's, would have been 6 months ago now. So I was dealing with that in both of my preps. It wasn't diagnosed at that point. I wish I'd been a little bit more proactive at that point, but we can't change the past. So um, I guess in those preps, the unknown of what was going on with my stomach at the time, and just trying to get through those preps with obviously being so sensitive with my stomach, was quite difficult. Luckily, obviously, with my coach as well, he was fantastic with being able to do all he could with obviously the information that I gave him at the time, to be able to make sure my stomach was in an optimal position as it could be. So, but it's just, yeah, navigating through those things. And like, the more you prep, sometimes like the vulnerability with your stomach and everything can get quite high. So just trying to navigate through that. And just, yeah, like my first prep was staying in my own lane. From there was the self-doubt. But yeah.
Yeah, that would have been pretty difficult. Do you mind sharing a bit of the details on like what Crohn's is for anyone who doesn't understand and sort of what your
Yeah.
symptoms are and what people could look out for if they're experiencing something similar?
Yeah, 100%. So, a lot of my symptoms to begin with were stress related and still are. So, even I could be eating completely on plan, eat all my normal foods that I know digest amazing with my stomach. If I am stressed, if I have a really bad sleep, or something's triggered it emotionally, for me, that is where the trigger commences. So, it's really important to try your best to manage the stress around you. Sometimes it's inevitable that it will come up anyway, but trying to control what I can control in those situations to manage my stress is the biggest one. So yeah, the flare ups just kept happening, and like my stomach would just blow up in a balloon. I would be in agony, crawled up in like a ball, trying to go and do the things I need to do in prep. But all those kinds of things. Internal bleeding started happening, probably TMI, but all those kinds of things. So I ended up going to the doctors, getting referred to a specialist, and then I ended up getting a fistula, which is basically like an abscess that comes from Crohn's, burst. And that infection started like going across my body, and I started basically getting that infection. So it kind of felt like COVID, but like 10 times worse with the infection spreading in my body. So they rushed me straight in. They were amazing. They drained the abscess internally and externally, and that recovery was quite aggressive from there. So definitely, if there's any flare ups or anything that's kind of happening, just go straight to your GP, get a specialist referral, get some scopes done, because if I hadn't have been so proactive towards the end, they said the aftermath could have been pretty horrific. So be proactive if you're feeling like you're getting any abnormal flare-ups with anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have been really difficult to go through, but I'm glad that you caught it and managed to,
Yeah.
have that surgery in time and get that out. So now you've moved into a big build phase, focusing on muscle growth. Can you explain what that phase involves and kind of what you're...
Yeah. So I competed August last year. I was going to do the November show this year. Not November, it's October this year. However, when everything kind of started happening with my Crohn's diagnosis and everything like that, I really had to practice what I preach to my girls and just think about if a client came to me and said, hey, I've just had like basically bowel surgery, I'm wanting to compete, my answer would be no. Let's focus on health and recovery this year. So I had to talk to obviously my coach about that as well, and really separate my rational versus emotional. Emotionally, I was like, yes, I can do this. Like, who cares about that? Like, we're all good. But my rational was like, Imogen, you need to take this year to just build, continue building. And then by the time I'm next on stage, it will be over 2 years since my last show. So basically, as soon as I got out of hospital, we did that recovery phase, make sure that everything was perfect, and then got straight into a build. So basically what that looks like at the moment, lots of food, lots of hard training, obviously I just had my boobs done, which is another whole thing, but we had a little bit of time off for that and gotten kind of straight back into it. Commenced the build until probably about, I believe, April next year, and then start dieting from there. But it's going to be a full couple of years all in the surplus, eating all the good food. So cannot complain in that regard at all.
Yeah, amazing. Honestly, I can't wait to see the progress like from such a long build phase. And for anyone listening, like you can see how much time and how much forward planning actually goes into a pro debut. Like you're not just stepping on stage straight away, you're putting in the work to make improvements.
Yeah, and like everyone's like, oh, like your show's a year away, like you're all good. I'm like, my coach and I have already mapped out the next 59 weeks. I know exactly what's happening every single week between now and August next year or September next year. So this is the time where it's the most important. The dieting is easy in comparison to now. If I don't work hard now, if I don't tick these boxes now, I'm going to be no different in a year's time. So even the progression that I've seen from my last show to now, it blows me away. But I'm also like, just imagine another year on top of that. And I'm so excited for that. So the days that I feel obviously uncomfortable, or, the body fat gets to me sometimes, which is obviously is going to come. I just have to remind myself, like, if I want to be, competitive on that pro stage, if I want to give it my all, this is the time where I need to sit in that discomfort, and I just need to embrace it and be healthy and, focus on all the positives that come from that build phase, not just the body fat, but it's like, I have a cycle, I can have some time with my loved ones. I've got energy. I can sleep, there's so many amazing things that come from a build that people don't talk about. Yep. I might be a little bit heavier, but I'd much rather be heavier and have the energy and be able to put all in my training and everything like that, than continuously be building, then dieting, then building, then dieting. It's so much better just being able to carry on that build and just keep progressing.
Yes, absolutely. I think a long build phase is so underrated.
You
So
had
how
a
do
long
you...
build phase, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, super long. I remember watching it. I was like, this girl's killing it with her food and her training at the moment. And
Yeah.
obviously now you're as well.
Yeah, mine was like 2 years as well. So I do miss all of those amazing things that you're talking about, like the
So you're
flexibility and, the really good sleep and the actually feeling energy in your muscles when you train. Like, don't underestimate those things when you're building.
even like I saw your pre-workout meal got cut the other day, and you're just like,
Yeah.
it's just those little things you're like, oh, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I miss the build phase. But How do you measure your progress, like specifically in a build phase, so that you can stay patient and stay compliant?
Honestly, like weight, I think everyone's so fixated on like number weight, scale weight. If is it going too far up or whatever that looks like. For me, it is a factor. Obviously, I don't want to be seeing the scales drastically jump every single week, so we do measure that. For me, it's performance in the gym. That's a massive one. So might not be necessarily increasing weight every single week. It's just not realistic. But it's execution of movement. Am I able to get an extra rep in? Is my last rep a little bit quicker than the week before? Did it feel like that failure was there this week compared to what it was last week? So that's a massive one for me. And I never was, when I first started, I really didn't have that measurable outlook on my training. I was kind of just like, oh yeah, going through the movements, going to do a million exercises. But now it's like 4 or 5, really delve in, execute well. And then on top of that as well, it's photos. So making sure that, I'm keeping my body in a relatively good body composition, but seeing those changes come. It's not going to happen every week, but compare month to month or 3 months to 3 months and be able to see those progressions. Otherwise, if we just always look at weight, we're just going to be constantly disappointed. Or I feel like this day and age, it's this massive stigma of constantly wanting to see the scale go down and reflecting if it doesn't with failure. And I think that's where a lot of people do struggle, because if they see the scale go up in a build phase, they're like, oh, I need to pull back on food or I need to increase cardio. But a build phase, like, it's the weight's going to come on, like it's inevitable at some point. So it's just having those different points of progression with the photos, with the training, with your energy, libido, all those kind of things to point back on. So when you do feel like, oh my God, the scale's going up, like you have those points to go back to as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think the biggest thing for me during a build phase as well is just having a coach that I can trust and know that they have a plan set for me. As long as I'm following that and I'm compliant, then I'm going to feel a lot more confident in what I'm doing. I think when there's weeks where I felt, like I had bad body image or I felt like I wasn't on track, it's normally because I wasn't doing everything that I was meant to on my build. So, like, I kind of subconsciously knew that I wasn't actually on track. So, I
Yeah.
think it comes down to that consistency and kind of bringing a similar level of intensity as you would in your prep actually into your build phase, but then including a little bit of balance in terms of like meals with
Yeah,
family and friends.
100%. And like, since I started like with a coach 5 years ago, I've never not had a coach. Like, and I'm a coach, you're a coach, but we like the whole build phase, every week. I've never missed a check-in. Even a week after my surgery, I had my heels on, like I was every single week. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life, like. And as you said as well, like if I'm not ticking all the boxes and I feel a bit average in myself, my coach is there to be like, well, it's kind of self-inflicted there. So I will never not have a coach ever. I will always have someone there. And I think it's super important that don't just have a coach for 20 weeks of dieting. You're not going to progress. They don't have enough data about you. They don't know what your body does or how it responds. And the longer that you can be in that build phase with them, the more data they've got to be able to have a successful prep with you. So stay with your coach. Like, don't leave them when you stop dieting. It's the most important part is after a dieting phase or after a show.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. I think so many people only use their coach for prep and then they get rid of them even like before the reverse diet, which you at least need them for that phase and ideally for a build phase as well. So for anyone who hasn't started using like our cost planner, you'll see that there's kind of essential costs for competing and coaching is one of those. Like that's not
The
something that you
most important. The most important. Like if you don't have if you think you know it all, you do not know it all. Like it doesn't matter if you're a coach or not a coach. Everyone, I feel like, should have someone that they, not even just a logical perspective with nutrition and training, emotional. Like you're gonna have those moments where you have self doubt. You're gonna have those moments. Am I lean enough? Have I got this? Have I done that right? Having that person there will just take that stress away from you, or that second guessing when it comes to how emotionally vulnerable you are. The deeper you get into prep, like you start to second guess every little thing. So having that person there just removes that guesswork out of your prep.
yeah, couldn't agree more. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling with their body image in a build phase?
Yes. And this is a massive one, because a lot of my clients at the moment, they are embracing their build phases, and I'm so proud of them, because I think, obviously being a coach myself, I have to practice what I preach. I can't sit here and tell them they've got to be completely comfortable in their build phase, because it's not always the case. I'm not always comfortable. There's days where I feel on top of the world. There's days that I'm like, I just want to hide in a baggy t-shirt and not be seen by anyone. But it's those days where I show up for myself when I feel like that. they're the moments that I can look back to in a prep and go, it was so worth it. When you get to that end point, when you start dieting and you can see those new lines coming through or like the shape improve, you can look back and go like that build was worth it. Like those moments where we felt that temporary discomfort has allowed us to see, that progression now. So just remind yourself, like, even if your show is 1, 2, 3 years away, the work we do now, we will seek the benefit in the future. So you might not see that instant gratification now, but you will see it in the future. So just remind yourself that. I've got vision boards. I write things down. I'm a massive visual person. So for me, it's like I had to sit down and go like, what am I going to need to look at when I feel uncomfortable or where I have that self-doubt? And now every time I do feel those moments, I look back to that board and go, I want to be a world champion. I want these things for myself. So this is what I need to be doing now to get there.
Yeah, I love that. It's 100% that delayed gratification. And I think it gets easier with every build phase because you kind of know that you are in control. Like you can lose the weight again, you can lose the
You can
fluff
drop
again.
it.
It's fine. And you're going to look better every time after you build. So it is totally worth it. You just need to delay that gratification and have a bit of patience, which is hard
Yeah.
when everyone else is competing.
The FOMO, like obviously my best friend, she's competing in the October show. And I'm looking at her prepping. I'm like, oh, like I want to do it so bad, but I'm living through her. And like, I'm such a massive hype girl. So like I see my best friends and my close ones doing so well, I get really emotional. And I already I've spoken to her about it, like just picturing her winning her crown, I get teary, and it's just the whole thing. So like if you've got obviously girlfriends and stuff in the industry that are prepping right now and you're in that different phase, like, just remember that will be you soon and they'll be in your position and you'll be able to be like vice versa. So like we've already spoken about, like when I'm prepping next year, she'll be in a build phase, and just being there for each other, even though you're not both prepping, is super important. Like I would be like the days that I have self-doubt and like if I don't want to talk to my coach about it, like I'm like, babe, like I feel not it today. And she's just like, well, I've got no energy. So what would you rather? So it's just having these people to bounce off in different phases do make the biggest difference as well.
Yeah, I love that. There's definitely benefits in every phase, and I think you're going to have FOMO no matter what phase you're in. So just commit to what
Miss the
phase
food
you're
or
in.
you miss the shreds. It'll be one or the other. So
Exactly. So moving on to nutrition. So you're an accredited sports nutritionist. What's one nutrition tip that you wish everybody knew?
less is not always more. I think a lot of people, and like I'm so guilty from that, and that's why I started coaching, was because I never want someone to feel the anxiety and like the fear around food that I once experienced when I first started. Like I look back at my fitness pal entries from 2017 and I just want to cry. Like my lunch was an apple and a can of tuna. Like there was nothing superior with my nutrition at that point. So, only because you're seeing all these Instagram trends of like low calorie, high protein foods, low calorie doesn't always mean it's appropriate for you. So there's a time and a place for everything, and focus more on quality nutrition and like foods that are going to make you feel good, not just constantly looking for low calorie fixes and like substitutes or sugar-free alternatives. It's not going to serve you. You'd rather like have the real thing and be able to fuel yourself properly than constantly trying to navigate those low sugar, like low fat market bullshit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree
Focus
more.
on
And
quality food.
yeah, often the low calorie or like healthy options are actually higher calorie than the real thing itself. So I think learning to actually read nutrition labels is a massive thing as well that I wish I had learned earlier in my journey.
It's wild. Like I did a reel a couple of months ago and I just like randomly picked up something from the health food section that was called high protein. It's 18 grams of fat in it, 350 calories, and there was like 3 grams of protein. I was like, if you didn't know any better, you're like high protein, like amazing. And like those protein cookies are like 500 calories for a cookie. And I'm like, and then like 10
Insane.
grams of protein. It's just wild. So marketing these days is very good, but if you're uneducated, you might think you're in a dieting phase and you're not like losing weight. And most of the time that's why.
Yeah, absolutely. And what common misconceptions do people have about sports nutrition?
I think with sports nutrition as a whole, it's like, you know, people might think that once as soon as you get your sports nutrition and credits, like you know everything. And I think it's super important that every nutritionist, every coach continues to upgrade their knowledge, upgrade their skills. Like I'm always looking for how can I further educate myself to give more to my clients. So starting new courses, looking at different avenues to be able to gain more knowledge. So, a sports accredited nutrition, like it doesn't mean you know everything and doesn't mean you have the answers to everything. So always continuing to upskill and be able to, not just for yourself, but for other clients, be able to give that knowledge and be able to keep those upskilling happening. That's what's going to be able to continue seeing progression. If you just kind of do one course and like, yeah, I'm accredited, but not furthering your knowledge, you're only going to go so far with clients and yourself as well. So always look to learn more and to be able to adapt different approaches for like a client or for yourself as well.
Yeah, I love that. So moving on to boobs, you
Yes,
recently you recently had your breast augmentation
I did.
surgery.
I did.
What motivated you to have this done?
Yeah, so like obviously coming from a background where I was quite overweight. So before that, like delving way back into my early teenage years, I did have an eating disorder and I was extremely underweight. And then I got extremely overweight. And then I went back to losing all that weight and kind of fluctuating between off season, on season, like not off and on, but building season, dieting. The more I fluctuate in weight, I just found that the girls weren't holding the way that I wanted them to. And it was one of those things I was like, I've got the time to do it now in between my shows. I didn't want to jeopardize, obviously, too much training time. So for me, if I was going to compete this year, it wasn't going to happen. So I thought it's just time. It was I had a consult, I had a second consult, just book it, just do it. And I was like, I've been thinking about it for probably about 4 years now. And the longer I left it, I was like, I'm just going to regret if I leave it any longer. And I kept going, what are other people going to think? People are just going to assume that I'm doing it for competing or for external reasons or whatever that may look like. But for me, it was like, I just want to feel confident in myself in both my dieting and my build phases. And with the inconsistency of like crop tops and all those kinds of things, I just wanted that consistency. And I'm so glad I did it. So glad I did it, because if I didn't, I think I probably wouldn't have done it for at least another 3 or 4 years. So I'm glad I bit the bullet and just booked it.
Yeah, absolutely. The timing worked out so well for you,
So well, so well.
big build
Yeah,
phase
they gave me
anyway.
like two. They gave me. I think it was like, we've got a cancellation on this day, or like you can wait till December. I was like, just book it, just do it now. And then I did it. And I was like, I'm going through with it. So
Yeah,
definitely did the book.
absolutely. Well, so many questions, and I love how open you are about this. And I've seen you've been getting a lot of questions on
Yeah,
Instagram.
bombarded.
So, yeah, to start off with, like, how did you go about choosing a surgeon, a size? Like, what factors did you think about when you were making the decision?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot for me in general, and I think a lot of people can agree, doesn't matter what avenue you go in, word of mouth is everything. And I think, like, I had obviously a lot of girlfriends that have had their boobs done in the last 12 months. So talking about them, their experiences, where they went, who they saw. I ended up also getting a breast lift as well as not just the implant. So there's a lot more to that procedure than just your standard augmentation. So having to find someone that was confident in able to do both as well. So that was a massive one for me. So I had a few girlfriends go to, his name's Dr. Chinsey in Brisbane. They loved the process. Like, he was super thorough. And so I was like, okay, I'll book a consult. I booked 3 consults with 3 different surgeons. It does cost a bit of money, but I'd rather be comfortable with my decision than just see one and then lock them in. So booked a consult with him, went and spoke to him. Obviously, he'd done a lot of competitors in bodybuilding, so he knew that was obviously the route that I was going on for that. And I just said to him, I want consistency. So obviously they're going to look a little bit more on the natural side when I'm in a build phase, but they're not going to look ridiculous when I'm lean. So I kind of wanted to go a little bit more conservative now, obviously at a heavier weight. So then when I do lean out, that they don't just look abnormally big or whatever. So I didn't want anything crazy. He was amazing. He taught me through the whole process. It was a lot more expensive, obviously, because I had both, not just the augmentation. But I was like, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it properly, and making sure that I had that trusting relationship with that surgeon. So once I just felt that automatic connection, I was like, yep, feel super comfortable with him, booked the second consult, and then just went from there.
Yeah, amazing. And do you mind sharing information on like what costs were involved? Were there widely varying costs from different surgeons and
Yeah,
different
so
locations?
just an augmentation with, depending on the surgeon that you go towards or anything like that, they usually round between 10 to 14,000 for just an augmentation. I found, but because I got the lift as well, that does add an extra cost to it. So mine ended up being 18,000 for both, and that comes with obviously the full surgery, the consultations, the aftercare, the anaesthetist, the hospital during the day. First, second, third, and 6 week checkup and a 12-week checkup. They give you all the compression bras, all that kind of thing. So it covers everything. And for me personally, it was either I just got the augmentation and they would still be sitting a little bit lower, not where I really wanted them, or I do both, pay that little bit more and be happy with them. So for me, it was an investment that I was willing to do to make sure that I was happy with the result. Otherwise, 6 years, 8 years down the track, I would have been like, I got to get both again anyway. So that was why it was more expensive. I ended up going a 350cc, and it looks very different on other people. So one of my girlfriends, I think she got a 500cc, and that might sound ridiculously big, but for her build and her proportions and her shoulders and everything like that, that's what the surgeon recommended for her. So it's very much like training in nutrition, not one boob fits all. So for what works for me will not work for someone else, and it will all alter. So yeah, very different depending on the human, will depend on what I guess they recommend as well.
Yeah, so interesting. And how has the recovery process been? Like, is it what you expected?
I prepared for the worst. I had some people say great recovery, like was all good. Some people like I couldn't move for 3 weeks. Some people, yeah, I've had so many different experiences, obviously with interactions with different girlfriends and stuff like that. 2 days post surgery, I stopped all pain medication. For me personally, with my Crohn's, pain medication flares my Crohn's up really, really bad. So I kind of just had to weigh up my options. Do I want to be in pain with that, or do I want to be in pain with Crohn's? And for me, the flare ups are just too excruciating that I just decided to drop all the medication. And to be honest, my recovery has been amazing. I'm back training 5 days a week. Obviously, I am very, everyone's kind of been at me going, you have to wait 6 weeks. And I get that. However, obviously, I've spoken to my surgeon and my coach, and I'm moving fine and I'm moving with what feels comfortable for me. So my RPE levels are a lot lower, definitely with upper body, no over like chest movements or anything like that. And lower body, I would say, is probably at an 85% capacity now. So I'm just hit 4 weeks today since surgery, and I'm back training 5 days a week. Recovery is great. I've still got to be cautious with some movements, but I just want to listen to my body. It's like in a prep or anything like that. You just have to be so in tune with your body and what it needs, and just adapt with that, and just make sure that you're looking after yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm so happy to hear your recovery is going well and there hasn't been
I
too
was so
much pain.
nervous. I was like, am I going to be bedridden? And I had to move house 2 weeks post surgery. So I was like, I've got to kind of move stuff. And luckily, I've got an amazing group around me that did all the moving for me. So I didn't have to lift anything. But I've been so lucky with my recovery. So lucky.
Yeah, amazing. And there's often like a debate in the bodybuilding community about the need for cosmetic surgery and getting boobs. What's your take on this?
Well, I went pro without boobs. So,
Yeah,
like,
same.
yeah, exactly. Like, for me, they don't, it's like tattoos, for example. They don't, it's about your presence, it's about your physique, it's about your persona, it's about how you can hold yourself as a pro. So all these factors come into play way before whether you've got your boobs done or whether you've got some tattoos or whatever that looks like. So at the end of the day with FMG as well, it's very much like personality and physique. So it's very much at the bottom of the list of priorities. So I understand why people think that, because obviously a lot of females do have their boobs done when they compete, but I do believe it's probably similar to my experience. It's like they just want consistency. They don't want to be fluctuating. Like, I don't know about anyone else, but the boobs are the first to go when I start dieting. Like,
Yeah.
they are gone within the first 4 weeks. So I just didn't really want to look like an 8-year-old little boy when I was getting at the end of my stage. Like, my face goes and I look very young when I compete. So that without a boobs, I was like, I just feel like I'm in like a primary school again. So, and like, yeah. So for me, it's so far from the truth when it comes to competing. Like, they don't care. The judges aren't looking at that. They're looking at your physique. They're looking at how you're posing, how you're holding yourself, and also like how can you be a good representation and a good role model for people that are wanting to be in the federation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important part, like if you have absolutely no boobs, is just bikini choice. Like choose a bikini that makes your physique look balanced, not something that's like
Yeah.
super flat and tiny to make your upper body look like it's going to make your shoulders look wider and bigger in bikini if you don't have boobs and you choose the wrong
Yeah,
bikini. So you just need to
absolutely.
be wary of that and like have lots of padding. But like you said, we both went pro without boobs. I still don't have boobs. I'm going to compete as a pro with no boobs. So you don't need them. You just need to be mindful of like bikini choice,
Yeah,
obviously,
and
and
like
like
work with your bikini designer. So my bikini originally that I was going to do for this year, like we had the draft and everything ready to go. That was before I decided to get my boobs done. So obviously Anne knows now we have to change what bikini I do, and I'm not going to give too much away, but alter the way things sit to suit the fact that now I've got an augmentation. But as long as you're working with someone that knows what they're doing with bikinis, they'll be able to like, that's not going to work with your boobs. They'll make sure you look amazing with whatever style that you want to choose as well.
yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to as well if you're buying secondhand bikinis, like just make sure you get one off someone with a similar cup size. Like if you've got no boobs, don't go and buy one off someone with big implants because it's just
Yeah, that will
not going
not
to
work.
work. Yeah.
Yes, very true.
Have you faced any judgment or criticism like following or leading up to your surgery, and how are you dealing with that?
Honestly, no. Like, I think a lot of people, I'm very honest. I'm probably too honest. And I think I'm very transparent on my social media that I won't hide anything, whatever, like bad days, good days, average days, I'll just share it all. And that's why I was so open about getting my augmentation. I had realized that I'd spoken about surgery, but I actually hadn't spoken about getting my boobs done until after. And then I was like, oh, I haven't even spoken about it. So I jumped on, spoke about everything, super transparent with everyone. And honestly, everyone's like, you seem confident, you seem happy. Like everyone's been so supportive, and like all my girlfriends like, yeah, like absolutely, like we're here for it. So I think it's super important. Like if anyone's judging you, like I think they definitely need to look at their own life and their own insecurities and potentially work on themselves. So take it with a grain of salt. Anyone that comes to me with judgment, I'm like, you've got self work to do, doll. Like, I don't take it to heart. I used to. I was a massive people pleaser. And if someone was like, you shouldn't have done this, or like, I can't believe you did this, I'd be like, oh my God, like I've hurt them. Like, now I'm like, it's me, it's my life. I've got to make sure I'm happy. And that might come across selfish to some people, but I've got to live with it. My choices. No one else has to live with my choices. So as long as I'm happy, I just surround myself with people who uplift that. And if they don't, then to be honest, I just cut them off now.
Yeah,
No,
love that.
no room
Love
for
that.
negativity here.
Yeah, can't have any negativity.
No.
So, what advice would you give to someone who's considering getting an augmentation done?
Yeah. Do your research. Talk to, like, if there's, if you look at people and go, I love how they sit on them or whatever that may look like, just message them, DM them. I DM'd so many people and go, like, who did you go with? What was your experience? What would you change? All those kinds of things. Just ask as many questions as you can. Don't, obviously, I rushed the booking process, but not the actual consultation process. So I'd been thinking about it for a long time, talking to a lot of surgeons, making sure that I felt really content and aligned with the person that I went with. And just make sure the first few months, they're not going to be what you envision for yourself. They're going to look a bit weird. Like they're not going to be how you kind of envisioned them. But I even had to say to Caitlin last night, I was like, they look so weird. She's like, babe, it's only been a month. Like give yourself some time. And yeah, just communicate, talk to people, and take your time to sit with it before you just like rush into one surgeon that you've seen. So ask
Yeah,
around.
yeah, great advice. Love that. So, moving on to your future goals, have you set a date for your pro debut?
Yes, but no. So, yes, I 100% am doing worlds next year. However, there's no dates about what shows are prior to that. So, obviously, we have to, what's the word I'm trying to find?
Qualify.
Yes. So, need to make sure I do a show to qualify for that show itself. So, I have a feeling potentially they may bring back the LA show, etc., a month prior to kind of align with the shows this year. So we're kind of in our mind, Justin and I, saying first week of August there will be a show that I can do, whether that's LA, London. I don't mind where I fly. It's going to be a eeny, meeny, miny, mo, whatever aligns, and do that show. Might try and do a couple of shows before then, but it will be definitely Worlds, and then when I have a date, I'll lock in a date for that show prior, which is kind of nerve wracking that I don't know what that date is. But we've basically gone by like that first week of August, and that's what we've backtracked towards. And then have hopefully like a 4 week break in between shows and then do the World show.
Yeah, so exciting because Worlds
Yeah.
is September, right? On the Gold
With
Coast.
the 17th, 14th, one
Yeah.
of those. But yeah, so mid-September, which I'm so excited for. Like it's so long away, but I think because like the work doesn't change now, like every single day when I wake up, that is my end goal. It doesn't feel that far away, and like breaking it up with my coach, and like we've got build phases and like a tidy up phase and whatever that looks like, it feels like it's just around the corner. So kind of it makes things so much more enjoyable in this phase where I'm super uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but it just means that I know exactly what we're working towards, and it just makes everything so much easier to get through now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely makes sense to do a show, a month or two before that, because then you're basically only doing one big prep for multiple shows rather than,
Yeah.
and you can extend the build phase as well, which means more improvements. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
love the approach.
definitely. So yeah, I think we're looking at going quite aggressive to begin with, get me where I need to be, and then feed me into the show. My last two shows, well, especially the last show where I went pro, I decided to compete 13 weeks out, and I had 15 kilos to lose roughly. So I wasn't intending to do that show overseas. I was just intending to do the November show. I was going over to watch Caitlin. She was like, "Why don't you just compete?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know about that." So I went to Rob. I was like, "Is it achievable?" And he's like, "We're gonna have to push." So I didn't tell anyone until I think it was 4 weeks out. I announced it, and even at that point, I was like, "I don't even know if I'm gonna make it." It was like every day we were having to try and make sure I could get to stage. And luckily, we pulled it off. So I managed to lose, I think it was 16 kilos in a 13-week period.
Wow.
So it was aggressive, and towards the end is not ever something I would want someone to go through for a prep. We had to dig, but that was the choice that I made to get there. And obviously Rob was incredible with that whole process. So we got there in the end, but it was definitely hard. So this time we'll start early, we'll get get most of it off, and then I will not have to diet into the show, which will be a nice change compared to the last show.
Yeah, that is a crazy amount of time to lose 16 kilos, and it must have been a massive push.
We like to push, and I like the challenge, but it was very cut and fine. But yeah, I'm so glad I did. I wouldn't change it for I wouldn't be pro otherwise. So wouldn't change it for the world. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult prep.
Yeah. And how are you feeling about stepping on stage on the pro stage for the first time next year?
I'm nervous, and I'm probably you would be the same. Like,
Yeah.
not that like I don't care what other people think, but for me, it's like I put that pressure on myself. I want to be as competitive as possible. Like, I love the journey, I love the experience, but I'm going in like to do well. Like, I want at least top three for my first pro show. So that was another reason why, even if the crone situation didn't happen, pushing out this year was like, do I want to be on stage or do I want to be competitive on stage? And I had to be realistic with myself. If I had gone on stage this year, yeah, I would have like looked great, but I wasn't going to be competitive. And that's just something that I had to tell myself. And I'm fine with that. I can be so hard on myself with these things because, again, if I'm not, then I might be disappointed at the end of it. So the extra year for me was like, you want to bring it, you want to show that you are deserving of that pro stage, so you need to do what that takes, and that is longer time off. So I know when I get on that stage that I've given it my all, and I will have absolutely no regrets, and I'll be able to be competitive, and that's all I want.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just taking everything. Yeah, taking everything to the next level, right? Because everyone up there has, they've won, they've gone pro, and they're all putting in the work as well. Like everyone's a standout. It's not like on the amateur stage when there's, maybe three or four, maybe even only two standouts. Like everyone on the pro stage is working hard. They know what they're doing and they stand out. So it's just,
The caliber of athletes as well, as the years go on, the level just gets like outdone every single year. Like the pros that went pro last show, I'm like, they're stepping it up. And like even one of my girlfriends, Erin, she went pro last year. I'm like, it's just so, which is amazing because it just means it's like more competitive, and the standard's just getting higher. But it just means you've got to work that little bit extra to make sure that you can match the new ones coming in and the new pros that are coming in as well. So like you've got work to do on that pro stage, which is exciting. Like you don't want it to be easy. I think, allowing yourself to know that it's going to be competitive, it just makes it want you to push harder. So I love it.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it exciting, and it means every single year, like you're going to have something to improve on. You're going to be able to keep going, keep pushing, keep growing, keep improving, which is, yeah, super
That's what
exciting.
we want. That's bodybuilding, right? Got to build
Yeah,
the body. No, yeah,
exactly.
100%. Yeah.
So, what are you doing now to ensure your prep or cut to the stage next year is as smooth as possible?
Yeah. So I'm very much one, post my first show, I really struggled with letting go with prep. So for me to have a meal out or a meal that I couldn't track would give me crippling anxiety because that was all I knew was like everything to the gram, everything dot. So between my shows, I really had to work hard on building what does it like normal life kind of look like outside of a prep. Obviously, all those non-negotiables stay the same. My cardio, my steps, my training, my nutrition, like that is a non-negotiable for me, but allowing myself that flexibility I really struggle with. So that past that first show, like Rob and I, when he was my coach, like he helped me tremendously to make sure that I would include some flexibility in my lifestyle. And now I'm so in tune with my body that I know exactly what I need. If I have a meal out, I know exactly what I need to do for the rest of the day to make sure all my non-negotiables, my macros, everything's hit. So I don't have any stress around that. I can have that flexibility and know I'm exactly where I need to be. And for me, it's making sure that my sleep is on point, my training is on point, my recovery is on point, my communication with my coach is bang on. All those things that I would do in a prep, they don't change in this period of time. If not, I do it more now because I'm like, I know I need to be proactive in this build phase. So for me, it's making sure my steps are done each day. I walk around the house still at 10 o'clock at night like I'm in prep if steps haven't been done. Making sure I'm meal prepping in advance and tracking my days in advance, making sure my check-ins with my coach are there every week. So just the improvement phase shouldn't be drastically different to the prep. The only difference is a little bit less food, a little bit more output. That's kind of all that changes for me. And obviously, as soon as the dieting starts, the unmeasurable meals out, I would say they go. I will never have a meal out when I'm in prep. I'm an absolute Nazi with that stuff.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, literally, everyone's like, yeah, we can have steak out. I'm like, no, if it's not weight on my scales, I'm not putting it in my mouth. It's that simple. So, obviously, that flexibility does go, and that's completely fine. But there isn't much that changes between now and when I diet, just a little bit less food and a little bit more cardio.
Yeah, love that. And what advice would you give to someone who's considering bodybuilding?
Take the time to build the foundation before you jump into a prep. Don't just think that you can jump into dieting straight away. You can jump into with a coach and go, yep, let's do this show and it work. Unless for some magical reason you've been able to have those foundations on your own prior, which to be honest is never the case. I say build that relationship with your coach, have that trusting relationship with your coach for at least 12 months before you get on a stage. Build the foundations, get your knowledge around nutrition, get your knowledge around training, because a lot of people don't train probably as hard as what they should, or as safely as they should as well. So it's making sure you have all those points in play. Let your coach have that data, build that data with your coach before you look at a show, before you look at a dieting phase. I think everyone just looks at the bikinis and the glamour and the lean physiques like, I can do that. There is so much more to it, and if you want a sustainable life in bodybuilding and be able to do more than one show, I highly suggest just take the time first, like build the foundations, go into a building phase before you look at dieting.
Yeah, I love that advice. And that's what I did when I did my first show, but I did it by accident. Like when I first wanted to compete, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Got a coach, wanted to go straight into prep pretty much, had a show in mind. And then that show was cancelled. So, like, did a build phase, prepped, that show was cancelled, did it again, that show was cancelled. And
Blessing
now,
in
like,
disguise,
looking
though. Hey,
back, yeah, I'm so grateful for that time. And like, I would recommend to anyone that you spend, like you said, at least 12 months with a coach and really build the physique that you want, like identify what category you want to do, what federation you want to compete in, get a coach that's compatible with that, and start building that foundation, and especially those habits, because that will make that transition into prep so much easier. Like how you said, you're really only adjusting your output and the food a little bit, but other than that, it's pretty much the same as your build phase, which just makes prep so much easier.
Yeah. Have a coach that's willing to be honest with you as well. When I first went to Rob and I said, I want to do this show when I was starting out, and he's like, no. I was like, fair call. And now looking back at it, like we did like a mock photo shoot prep and then went back into a really good build, and that was tailored to the T. And my progression from that like photo shoot prep to there, I was a completely different person. And it was only like 10 months, but even then I was like, God, if I had stepped on stage then, like no chance. So having a coach that's like, no. And even this year Justin was like, I know you want to do the prep, but you're not prepping. And I was like, this is why you're my coach, because you're telling me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. So having an honest coach, not just someone that's like, yeah, let's just chuck you on stage. Like if they're doing that, then I would be definitely having some thought processes about coaches as well.
Yeah, I think people like competitors as well severely underestimate before they've actually gotten lean how much muscle they need to sustain that shape when they get lean. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have muscle, you're just going to look like skin and bones when you get
Yeah.
lean. So you really do need to build that foundation.
Yeah. I thought I had built so much more muscle between like my first and my second show. And like, don't get me wrong, I had built more muscle, but like I was still a stick my last show. That's why I'm like, there's no chance I'm going on a pro stage until I know there is density under this body fat. Like I would much rather have another 2 years off and making sure that, there is substantial improvements, because a lot of the time I'm like, yeah, I'm wellness, I've got the legs, and then they diet and I'm like, it's all gone. It was all body fat. So yeah, making sure that you do take the time, so you're not just accumulating body fat. You are actually putting on the muscle required to fit your category and to fit the criteria.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so excited to follow the rest of your build and see it all come together for your pro debut next year.
I'm excited to see you on stage as well. I feel like it's been just under 12 weeks now.
Yeah, just
It's
like
flying
11 and a half
by.
weeks. Insane.
Crazy. Yeah, no, I'm so excited for the show. I think as well, like this year, FMG with the transition has just set the standard of everything that a good federation should be, and it's so exciting. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, so many
Thank
exciting
you for
things
having me.
coming. Of course, this has been a great chat. And thank you so much to our listeners as well. If you could take a minute to follow, rate, and share this podcast, I'd be so grateful, as it really does help us to grow. And also let us know what you're doing while you're listening to this. I've been loving people tagging me, saying that they're on prep, doing cardio, listening to the podcast.
Popular
So
steps
continue
and
to
all
do that.
that.
We'd love to see it. Yeah.
So good.
Thanks, guys.